Hello, Maverick Traders. This is Rob Reinhold. It is Tuesday, April 19th. Let's take a look at what the market gave us today. So we got a pretty nice up day in equities. So as you can see, S&P up about 1.6%. The VT, the World Total Index, up slightly less, but still a good 1% up day. Cryptos up about 1%. So as you can see, a pretty good bullishness across the board for equities and cryptos. Commodities did sell off. We saw oil fall 5%. We saw gold fall almost 2%, which is a pretty big move. So really what we saw over the last 24 hours is last night we saw a weak Asian market. We saw a weaker Europe, and the US futures opened up a little bit negative. And then the buying came in about 15 minutes into the market, and the buying lasted all day long. And if you take a look at the daily chart here on the S&P, that's a really nice green candle. It's really, if you're bullish, that's a really nice green candle. Here's the problem. It didn't really do anything. Yes, this was a big candle. Anyone who's long had to like this day. Anyone who's short had to hate this day. But in the end, it didn't do anything. We didn't break out of any technicals. We are sitting between a 50 and a 20 period moving average. And those moving averages are going sideways. They're flat. This is the true definition of there is no clear signal in technicals at this moment. Now, we will get some clear signals at some point if we can continue to make some up candles and we can climb back above that 20 period moving average and they start to steepen. Okay, you know what? We'll get more overall bullish here on equities. What I think is going to happen is I actually think the next move is to the downside, lower, and I think we do get a break eventually. But until then, that's just me projecting my thoughts and maybe even my wishes. I cannot trade thoughts and wishes. You can only trade facts. And right now, the S&P is just telling us that it's not really going anywhere. One thing to note is that after the market was closed, Netflix came out with earnings. Earnings were very bad. They're down 25%. First time ever they lost subscribers, and they're saying we're going to lose even more subscribers in the coming quarters. The question is, how much of an impact is that going to have on the markets? The markets had a very big update today. The NASDAQ futures were down about half of what they gained today. So if you take a look at a NASDAQ chart, just cut this candle in half. My guess is the S&P will lose maybe 25% of what I got today with, the follow-through effects on all the other stocks like Netflix. Ultimately, we're just still stuck in a range. That's it. If we take a look at the VT is weaker than the S&P. You can see that we are not even above our 50-period moving average. Again, this candle, while a nice green candle, meant nothing. It meant nothing. It changed nothing. As you can see here, we still have more of a downward slope to these moving averages, which tells me the next move is likely to be the downside. But I could absolutely be wrong. I've been wrong many times. That's why we trade the market in front of us. If we can get back up above those moving averages, sure, you can be more bullish on equities and risk on assets. Checking in on the crypto basket, this is the 4 cryptos that we look to trade on an equally weighted basis. And again, nothing happened today. I know people are going to get excited. I know people are going to say, oh, another two up days in a row. Yeah, that doesn't change anything other than we're now at the top of the range. So anyone looking to buy cryptos over the last 2 days, this is about the worst time to buy them. We are now at the top of his recent trading range. If we break above the trading range, you know what? I'll get on board. I'll look to be more bullish. But until that happens, cryptos are just a no touch for me. So if we come here to our scoring system, we got a -1 on the market. That's where we were over the weekend when we did our currency room. Really, nothing has changed for that. As I said earlier, if we do get more bullishness, then it is going to force the score higher. It's going to force us to go to a 0 and then possibly to a +1 where we're looking for more risk on assets. And if that happens, then crypto all of a sudden becomes interesting again. We'll have to see what it's actually doing in the chart. But until that happens, I think you just have to say we're probably stuck in a range here on equities and risk assets. If we take a look at the calendar here for the rest of the week, we do have some inflation news out of Canada and New Zealand tomorrow. Those numbers should move those currencies. So if you're looking to trade a news event, both the CAD and the Kiwi are in play tomorrow. We also have 2 Fed governors speaking. One, I believe, is around 12:30 Eastern time, and the other is like 8 p.m. But they've been moving the market quite a bit lately. When these Fed governors get up, usually it's only when Powell gets up, which we do hear from Powell on Thursday and on Friday. Usually it's only when the chairman speaks up, but lately they've all been very hawkish, which has been moving the market. So over the next 24 hours, again, Canadian dollar, we liked the Canadian dollar. That was our top currency coming into this week as the best one to buy. I believe Kiwi was like number 3 on the list. So both of those are in play over the next 24 hours. So let's go through each currency on an individual basis, look at it, and that's going to tell us where we're looking to hunt, what pairs we're looking to trade. So if we take a look at the cryptocurrency performance today, we can see that it was muted. We had most of them were up. Solana had a nice little jump of 5%, but everything else is up 1%. That's definitely on the smaller end of the moves that we usually see on crypto. We come over here to the foreign currencies. The yen was our favorite short coming into the week, followed by the Swiss franc. And you can see that the yen got absolutely crushed today. And that, to me, if you want to take a look at all the stories that happened over the last 24 hours, this one is the biggest one. The Bank of Japan continues to take their currency out and shoot it and just do all the things they can to drive it down. They're doing it on purpose. They want to create inflation. The Japanese economy has been without inflation for decades. They're really attacking it here. And when you take a look at what the Bank of Japan is doing versus all the other central banks that are now making monetary policy tighter and raising interest rates, the Bank of Japan is still doing just the opposite. We've liked the yen short for pretty much all this year, and we said on the weekend, until the yen proves us wrong, we're going to keep selling yen pairs. So big fall here today. So down 1.3%. That's a big move. I expect that there's likely going to be a bounce or a base off of this. That is a big move, but I think you want to be right back on the short side on the yen maybe later in the week. What did well? Aussie had a nice day today. We'll take a look at the chart. Aussie came down to support, and it did exactly what we wanted it to do at support. So I had the Aussie kind of on the back burner at the first part of this week. Now I believe the Aussie is back in play. CAD yen was a nice trade earlier in the week short, and I think CAD is still looking decent. Well, again, like I said, we'll look at all these on an individual basis. Let's start off at the top with the cryptos, taking a look at Bitcoin. Now I'm on a 4-hour chart, and I've got our velocity score measures here. I've got the parabolic SAR, the 13-period EMA, and the relative strength index. And basically what I'm looking for is velocity. What's moving right here? If I just go through trends, you can see here that the price action over the last, call it 24, 48 hours, is not great. It's not great. The moving average has been flat the whole time. Take a look at, we get movement. This is when you want to be trading. You want to be trading in these moments when there's big moves. Again, you want to be short here on this one. Right now, there's just not big moves happening. So until there's big moves happening, there's just no reason at all to look at the cryptos. And you'll see that most of them are the same, just flat moving averages, crisscrossing listless RSIs. We're not getting any indication. So Bitcoin Cash didn't look great. Here is Ethereum. Same thing. When we take a look at what has it done over the past 24, 48 hours, it's done nothing. Now look, you could look at this and say, oh, you know what? This is basing. And you know what? You'd be right. And if that's the case, then the next move is likely lower in Ethereum and really the rest of the cryptos. Because here's Litecoin. You can see Litecoin on a short-term basis is showing some relative strength. We do actually have some decent velocity scores here. We've got above the parabolic SAR. We have a rising 13 EMA. RSI is, let's give that a half a point. So if someone had a gun to my head and said you have to trade a crypto right now, it would have to be Litecoin. It is the best one on the chart. Here's the best news. We don't have to. No one does have a gun to our head. So we can actually wait and take the best trades. And I think that's what you want to do in crypto. I think you just want to wait. In the foreign currencies, however, I think there's some great trading setups here. This is dollar. So here we got dollar. As you can see here, dollar looks fantastic. It looks absolutely fantastic. Everything about this looks good. Rising EMA, rising parabolic R, rising price, RSI hanging out at 70. This thing looks like it wants to keep moving. The only question is, how long is it going to keep doing this before it has a meaningful pullback or base? We have no idea. No one has any idea. But what we do know is that the dollar definitely has a supply and demand imbalance to the buy side. So we do like dollar. It's got a nice velocity score, +2. Here is yen, and yen is just, as we talked about on the weekend, it's just weak, and it just continues to be weak and continues to fall and continues to fall to new levels. Until that stops, you have to continue to be short yen. And in foreign currencies, these trends, I remember when I got into foreign currency trading back in like 06, I could not believe how long the moves lasted. They lasted for months with very, very little counter movement to it. We're getting this exact same movement here with yen. This move has been lasting for months. I mean, as far back as I can go. I mean, here's March 8th, and you can see it's just heading lower with just a few little bounces in there, and that's it. For the most part, it's sideways to lower price action. Now, the yen just had a big fall. I expect there to be, again, we're at we're at a 15 on the RSI. This is about as weak as it gets. We are expecting there to be a bounce here, but shorting the bounce on yen looks like a good call here. That's probably not going to be around until Thursday, Friday, so we'll come back and check on it then. So since the yen to me is a little sold out at this point, Swiss franc jumps to the top of the list, and you can see we're now really intensifying the move lower. We had this nice little bounce, this little bear rally here. We came up for maybe 24 hours, maybe 2 to 3 days, and then we turned right back down, and you can see we just broke through that support. There's no question that Swiss franc definitely looks tradable at the time. We've got a -3 here on Swiss franc. So Swiss franc is absolutely trade on the short side. Dollar's a trade on the long side. Let's check in on euro. All right, so taking a look at euro, you can see it's creeping higher, but at a very, very slow rate. Remember, we are looking for currencies that are moving, that are actually showing a huge supply and demand imbalance. And right now, we've got a little bit more buying than selling in euro, but that's about it. So for me, this is like a +1. I'm just going to go say, you know what? Nice to meet you. I'm going to go look somewhere else. Here we come up pound, and you can see for the pound for really the last week, we have been just going nowhere on pound, but creeping higher. This is a nice high base pattern. We love when currencies make a big run and then will not sell off, just refuse to sell off. The pound looks great here on the long side. The only problem is the velocity. What is going to take it from here? If you were to get into pound here, why now are we going to get a big expansion move like we did back here? And I don't think you can make that case in the Asian session. Maybe when the European market opens up and we get a breakout, I think you can grab it. So for now, pound is like a +1, but I'm willing to move it higher if it can prove that it wants to go higher. Next up is Canadian dollar, and Canadian dollar has everything you want on it. It's got rising moving averages. It's got a nice move. It's got momentum. We just had a pullback. We just had a little bit of a pullback here. Made a big run up. We got 2 candles down, came down to the moving average. We're bouncing here. Everything on CAD looks good. CAD is still, in my book, the top trade. But let's check in with Aussie, because Aussie has been pulling back. And actually, I'm going to go to a daily chart on Aussie here. And we topped out back here on April 6th. And really since then, we fell for 4 days. We had one up day, fell for another 4. We are at a really key level of support here on Aussie. And if this Aussie can hold this level, and it looks like it is holding this level, then we are definitely looking at least a return to this previous high and possibly even a new swing high. What I would like to see on Aussie is a little bit better velocity score. On a 4-hour chart, if you look at the velocity, it's starting to steepen. We had this really long pullback here. This is days of a pullback. And we've now confirmed all the things that we want to see in a bullish currency. We're getting them right now. Will that last? We have no idea. But we always trade the market in front of us. So I think Aussie looks great as well. The big question is it better than CAD? We'll take a look at that here in just a second. Let's follow up with or finish off with the Kiwi. You can see we had a pullback here. We had a pullback just like we had in Aussie. I got to say that this bounce isn't as progressed as the Aussie is. You can see the EMA is just barely turning up, and it's not turning up with any sort of velocity. We do have a parabolic SAR, but this RSI is just parked at 50. So I'm going to give Kiwi like a +1, about all I can give it. So if we rank all the currencies, this is our velocity score here. So the cryptos, the euro, the pound, the Kiwi, really not tradable over the next 24 hours based on their velocity scores. So what does that leave us? Well, it leaves us with some good situations here. Aussie, CAD, dollar on the long side, and paired up against the Swiss franc and the yen. But as we talk to the yen, likely to get some sort of little relief bounce or something. We definitely like the Swiss franc better here over the next 24 hours. All right, now let's look at some specific currency crosses and some specific entry points. I mentioned earlier, I wanted to take a look at Aussie Kiwi. Now, when you have two currencies and you say to yourself, okay, well, which one's stronger? If you looked at the dollar basket and you said, okay, the dollar looks good. You looked at the CAD basket, you said, oh, the CAD looks good. If you pair up the two currencies against each other and look at that chart, it tells you which one is stronger. And so the question was, is the Aussie a better buy here than the CAD? Now you can see here over the past, 2 weeks here, the Aussie has weakened against the CAD, which means that the CAD has been the better trade on the long side for most of this period. You can see that the moving average has flattened out. We're not getting really any clear signs that it's in a big, strong up move or a down move. So this is telling us that at this moment, the Aussie and CAD are equal. As you can see over the past, again, these are 4-hour candles. So over the last 16 hours, they've been very much the same. So right now, it's not giving us any signal of which one's better. But if I had to make a choice, the Aussie has been weaker than the CAD over the last couple of weeks. I'm going to go with, looking at CAD first in a lot of trades. So let's take a look at that. So we got CAD, our favorite long, lined up against Swiss franc, our favorite short. So let's take a look at this on a 4-hour chart. And you can see here, we've got some nice price action that's happening right here, right now. We've got a nice breakout to the upside. And if you go back, you can see that we are breaking out to some really new levels here that we haven't seen in CAD Swiss franc for potentially years or even decades. Really nice price action to the upside. People ask the question, okay, well, how long is this going to last? We don't know. We have no idea how long it's going to last. It could already be over. What we do, though, is we make the trades that are showing the biggest supply and demand imbalances at the moment. So CAD Swiss franc, I think it's a great entry here. An entry at 75.40 with a stop at 74.70. Position size accordingly for that trade, but that is the trade I do like here on CAD Swiss franc. Going down the list, we could also take a look at dollar Swiss franc. Dollar Swiss franc has a nice pattern as well. We have this nice high base. And again, I love these high bases. And this was one of my most difficult patterns when I was a younger trader, that I was still in this, oh, it's gone up too much. It went up so much, it's going to come down. I was in that mentality. And when I saw a position that had a big run, and then it actually kept trading up, I thought it was expensive over here. How am I not supposed to think it's even more expensive over here? Well, just think about it. After a big run, there were still more buyers and sellers. The big run didn't scare them off. That tells you that there's still buying pressure there. And you can see what happens is these things drift and drift and drift and drift, and then they have this explosive move because, again, just such pent up energy on this. I like dollar Swiss franc. I like it on the long side. I like it here. Question here, this one's a little bit more difficult, is where's the stop placement would be. You could be all the way down here under this base. It's going to be a little far away for the way I trade. So I'm looking at a 13 period EMA right here at 94.65. 94.65, entry here at 95.16 on dollar Swiss franc. And for fun, let's throw in Aussie Swiss franc. If we look at Aussie Swiss franc, you know what, it's just not as good. It is steepening, which we do like. We do like it steepening. We got RSI starting to head up to 70, starting to look good. The question is this the best trade? Does this look better than CAD Swiss franc? Does this look better than dollar Swiss franc? And in my estimation, the answer is no. I could end up being wrong. Aussie Swiss franc could be the best pairing to buy over the next 24 hours. But if I'm looking at relative strength of where we are, I still like CAD Swiss franc better on the long side. That wraps up our trade for the next 24 hours. So let's wrap this up. Risk on for now. I want to see what the Netflix fallout is to the equity markets. If it causes a little bit of a rout tomorrow where we basically lose everything that we gained, we could definitely tilt back to a risk off scenario. And in a risk off scenario, Aussie usually doesn't do as well. CAD doesn't usually do as well. And the currencies of safety, which is usually dollar, Swiss franc, and yen, actually do a little bit better here. So if we do get a complete reversal of today's price action tomorrow, I think you probably have to jump back to a risk off. But for right now, it is risk on. So we like Aussie, CAD, dollar long, Swiss franc, and yen short. And the cryptos, we'll just come back another day when they look interesting. Thanks for joining, everyone. Goodbye.